Hello, everyone. I'm going to have a nice restorative practice today, as usual. I'd like you to gather props for support around you, chair, stool, your bed, blankets, pillows, couch cushions, hardback books if you want a little bit of more intense feedback. Unless you have yoga blocks at home, those would work just as well, but they're not required. Even wall space, if you have it freely available, is welcome. And we're going to start off actually kind of standing, sitting, and we'll pass in between those two shapes a few times to check in with the low back and the pelvis and see how that's feeling today, where you're feeling sensation, where you might need a little extra time and attention and care. Oftentimes, and I'm not going to say this across the board, but in my experience working with my own body and other people, low back pain can sometimes be associated with core strength. So if low back pain is something that you're experiencing in your life, maybe just kind of reflect, do I do things that strengthen my core body? Is my core body strong? Is it easy for me to sit upright? When I'm sitting upright, do I feel like there's a lot of effort involved to keep my shoulders from rounding forward? So those might be key indicators that core strength is needing a little bit more attention as it relates to low back pain. Just food for thought. So first thing I'd like us to do is find a gentle forward fold. So this is where that chair, stool, some sort of prop is going to come in handy, because as you fold, I want you to be able to support your hands on something. So bring the floor up to meet you, bring that prop underneath your hands. You can take your feet like outer hip width distance apart, little bend in your knees, let your head relax. That can be a lot on the back body, especially if the back of the neck tends to be pretty sore. Again, the low back tends to be pretty sore or tight. Hamstrings, legs, all of these things connected by fascia tissue, especially the back body. We have this netting of fascia that lays over the entire posterior chain of the body, which is your back body. So just take a few moments here to notice where you feel things, to notice where you're holding tension, and then what can you do to support your body in this shape? Does your prop need to be higher? Does your prop need to be lower? Do you need to bend your knees? Can you relax your head? Can you find your breath? Can you deepen your breath? We'll take about 3 to 4 more breath cycles here. And then we'll take that prop that you're placing your hands on, and if it's suitable, place it underneath the tailbone. So for example, I'm taking my blocks and I'm going to place that right underneath my seat so that when I lower my seat, I can sit on it. And I'm getting closer to the floor than I would in a chair per se, because what I'd like us to do is bring the knees kind of together, bring the feet together, round forward. You can wrap your hands around your shins, curl your chin into your chest, and just take a few breaths again into the back body. Can you let your head be heavy here? And now imagine really concentrating your breath, your effort into the low back. So if you can picture, visualize your low back, as you breathe in, imagine the space, the tissue at your low back expanding with your inhale breath. And relaxing with your exhale breath. And if you want to increase the sensation in the low back, your seat gets a little bit lower. Maybe you remove a prop. And if it's too much, that sensation, if it's too much, you raise your seat up, you add some props in. Let's take about 4 more breath cycles here. So this little shape, much different than a Malasana squat, which if you practice with me regularly, you're familiar with the Malasana squat where feet are wide and it's a little bit more active. Now this is a passive shape because our focus today is relaxing the tissue, relaxing the muscles, relaxing the tendons and the ligaments, and receiving some passive sensation. One more time, we're going to stand up into that forward fold. So support yourself standing up, bring that prop back underneath the hands that you were using before. Take your feet a little bit wider than your hips. Soft bend in your knees. And drape your upper body over your lower body. Continue to relax the head here. Just let your head be heavy. Find your breath. Three more breath cycles. You notice where the weight is in your feet. Is it back towards the heels? Can you bring a little bit of weight forward towards the ball mounds of the feet? Keep bending those knees. Just a little bit at least. Where do you feel the sensation in the back body right now? We're going to come back to that crouching seat, that supported crouching seat. So the feet kind of come together, knees kind of come together. And we're just making ourselves into this little tight little ball. We're going to wrap our hands around our shins. I'm grabbing my opposite elbows, which if you can get them, go ahead, but it's not required. You could also just hold on to your opposite wrists. Same as in our forward fold, we're going to let the head be heavy, tuck the chin in, and imagine the breath moving to the low back. Think about that expansion of the low back on your inhale and the relaxation of the back on your exhale. Three breath cycles here. And then we're going to start to open up on your seat. We're going to come down to the floor and spend the rest of our time either on our backs or kind of like a prone position on the belly. Our first shape will be a variation of pigeon, and I'll demonstrate a couple of different options for this. So depending on what's going on in your knees, it may be more sensible to come to your back body and take figure 4 on your back. Because if there's anything going on in the knees where you don't want to put pressure or body weight on that joint, you're going to just want to take this figure 4 on your back. It does the same work. You can increase the sensation in figure 4 by hugging the knees or that whole arrangement into the chest. Or you can leave that left foot planted on the ground. I'm starting with the right leg first. Right leg in pigeon, so working with the outer right hip, IT band and outer glute. And then another option again is seated upright in your pigeon. I'm going to actually turn this way. I'm creating two kind of 90-degree angle shapes with my legs. So my back left knee coming out of the hip socket, knee is deeply bent, and I'm sitting forward on my right hip, and I'm going to start to lean my upper body forward over the right shin. And then gathering props underneath the belly, underneath the chest to support that shape. I like to use blocks, pillows, blankets, bolsters. All of these things are welcome. Whatever you have at home. We'll take a little bit longer here in this shape because the tissue around the hip muscles, it's pretty dense. It takes a little bit longer to release. And that sometimes means that it's more sensational, but not always. So just being open to your experience. And paying attention to your body, paying attention to your breath, honoring your limitations, honoring your ability. When you find a place that you can sustain for the next 3 minutes, the goal is to become still in the body. So sometimes that means fidgeting a little bit at first and adding props or removing props in order to settle into that stillness. Once you do settle in, can you just bring your awareness to your breath? So the breath becomes this meditative guide, like a metronome. Even if you're in the variation of pigeon where you're prone, which is belly down, it's always okay if you start to feel, anything sharp and shooting or kind of tingling in the knee joint, to back out and come to your back and find a figure four shape instead. It's the end of our 3 minutes on this first side. So gently release out of that shape. And we'll all meet on our backs for 1 minute. I just simply want you to allow your legs to stretch out long, to relax your whole body without putting it into any form or shape, without rushing to the second side. Just let everything go, let it rest. 1 minute here. Breathing in, breathing out. Okay, so we'll start to set up our second side. If you're on your back and you're doing your second round of figure four, that left ankle goes on top. You can simply let it rest on your back, or you can hug the knee, that arrangement into the chest using your hands. And then if you're coming up to that other modification of pigeon, most of the weight is on that left hip. Both knees are bent. The back right knee is coming out from the hip, and it's a nice deep bend in that knee. And then we lean forward over the left shin, support the body with any level of propping, blocks, books, pillows, blankets, even a chair or a stool in front of the body to fold your arms on would be welcome. Most often our right and left side are very asymmetrical, so it might feel kind of like you've entered a different body in terms of where you're feeling sensation. It might be a completely different experience. And that might mean you need a different level of support or to hold yourself in a different way. Just allowing each side to be different, allowing whatever is true on this side to be true, honoring your body, honoring your ability, honoring where you're at today, settling into your breath. And eventually, can you find that place of stillness where the tissue, the muscle, the tendons, the ligaments, everything gets to relax and receive. Come to the end of our 3 minutes on our second side, so you can slowly unwind. Again, we're going to make our way to our backs, stretch out. If you need to support the backs of the knees with a prop, especially if the low back is really bothering you today for whatever reason, because that is kind of our focus, low back release, nourishing the low back. And please support yourself with any props. Noticing any new sensations in the body as you just lie here and you receive. One more breath cycle. All right, so for our next shape, I'll invite you to add a little bit of lift underneath the spine. So that might mean placing a pillow or two underneath the spine, so that when you lay back, the chest and the back of the head are slightly lifted, but my tailbone and my pelvis are completely on the mat. And in this way, we get to work a little bit with the chest opening up through the collarbone, the shoulders. I'm going to start off with my knees bent and my feet planted. You might want extra propping around the hips to support the knees and the pelvis in this way. And same thing with the back of the head. Like, for example, right now I feel a little bit of a tug on my neck and my shoulders. To me, that means I need some more support underneath the back of my head. So I'm going to place a blanket there so that my neck gets a little bit more support. That feels a lot better in my body. We're going to turn this into a bit of a twist. Okay, so we're going to take our knees off to the right side. And you can do this twist in a lot of different ways. You can simply just let the knees move off to the right side and notice how that feels. Okay. You can also take this lower arrangement, the lower half of your body, and kind of play with it. So you could take that left hip more forward. So like a traditional twist where the knees would be stacked, you might take that right knee underneath the body a little bit, pull that left knee forward, and then support it with a prop underneath the inner knee. So kind of just play around with the way that you want to find this twist. As I'm moving my lower body off to the right, I'm noticing that my torso is kind of leaning off of my bolster. So I'm scooting back a little bit on my cushions so that my chest and my spine get the full support of what's underneath them in this twist. Eventually settling into your stillness in this rotation. Maybe the left arm is stretching off towards the left side, broadening across the chest. The right hand, I find it really nice and grounding to place my right hand on my body somewhere. It might be on the belly, the rib cage, or the outer or inner leg, whatever is accessible there in your rotation. Again, you're kind of assessing what props you need to support your body so that you can find stillness, so that you can passively receive this shape and all of its sensations. As you settle in here, you might even notice that there's little tiny places in the body where you're clenching, where your muscles are still gripping. And it's almost as if layer by layer, you're able to release and let go, kind of like you would peel away a layer of an onion and uncover what's inside. In this shape, it's the same thing is true if the support underneath the spine, the lift of the chest is too much in this twist. You're welcome to get rid of it, add more props, remove some props, really make this practice your own. Coming to the end of our 3 minutes here, we're going to unwind the legs, come back through center. I give you the option here to keep the knees bent, pointing towards the ceiling, or stretching the legs out. And we'll take a minute in a neutral position. Breathing in, breathing out. Yeah, so if your legs are stretched out long, go ahead, start to bend your knees again. We're going to set up our second side of this twist. So knees are going to go off to the left. And again, you have the option of keeping the feet wide, just letting the knees knock off to the left, or taking that left knee more underneath the body, so it's like vertical from your spine. And the right leg, right hip stacks on top. If you are taking that variation, it can be a lot on the low back and the pelvis. So I recommend sliding a prop underneath that inner right thigh, right knee to support it. Okay, so just kind of playing with it, seeing what variation of your twist you want to take. And then adding your props in to support that stillness. Start to settle. Mindful of the neck, the spine on its support, if that's still working for you, or getting rid of it if it's not. Maybe connecting your left hand to the body somewhere. It could be on the belly, the rib cage, or one of the legs. Touch is so good for the parasympathetic nervous system, and it can be self-touch. It can just be simply your own hands on your own body. Great way to practice self-soothing. And stay with your breath here. Coming to the end of our 3 minutes in this rotation, we'll nice and slowly unwind. Coming back through center. We're going to head into our Shalasana as our next and final shape. So if you still have your spine lifted and the chest kind of opening, that might be a nice way to spend Shavasana. But if you're feeling done with that, feel free to remove that and settle into Shavasana whatever way, again, it supports stillness. Take 1 minute here to just let all of that good work integrate and let the body come to rest in a neutral position. Deep breath in through the nose as you settle. Maybe it's an open mouth exhale, letting it all go, letting it rest. Feeling the bones, the muscles, the skin heavy. Nothing to do. Just allow yourself to be. I invite you to stay longer in your Shavasana if you have the time in your day. If you need to move on, start to awaken the body, moving through your fingertips, your toes. Move your head side to side. You start to bend your knees, roll off to a side, fetal position. Begin to make your way up to an upright seat. We'll just briefly close out our practice together. Maybe you join your hands together at your heart. Maybe you bow your chin into your chest. Taking a moment here to honor your effort, your practice with reverence and gratitude. May you use the fruits of this practice to serve your highest good, to reach your highest potential. Share it with those around you that you love and who could use healing. Together we send love and healing to all sentient beings around the world that may be suffering. May they be happy. May they be free. Namaste. Thank you so much for joining today. Hope you enjoyed. Hope you come back again soon. And take care of yourself in the meantime.